Captain Zornak of the Galactic Dominion Fleet stood on the bridge of his warship, the Decimator, watching the blue-green sphere called Earth floating peacefully in the void. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he contemplated what should have been a simple conquest. The humans below had no idea they were about to become the 3007th species to fall to the mighty Dominion. Status report. Zornak barked, his tentacles writhing with anticipation. All systems optimal. Captain, replied Lieutenant Grix, her scales shimmering with excitement. The humans continue their primitive broadcasts. They're still arguing about something called pineapple pizza? Zornak let out a gurgling laugh. Typical underdeveloped species, fighting over food combinations while we prepare to enslave them. Begin the invasion. The first wave of attack ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like metallic rain. Zornak expected the usual pattern: panic, futile resistance, then swift surrender. What happened next would haunt him for the rest of his considerably extended lifespan. The human military responded, of course. Their jets and missiles were laughably primitive compared to Dominion technology. But then something strange occurred. The attack ship's pilots began reporting unusual readings. Captain, we're detecting massive emotional energy signatures from the human population, Communications Officer Vex reported, his antennae twitching nervously. Emotional energy? Bah. Probably fear. Good. Let them cower before our might. But it wasn't fear. Not entirely. Down on Earth, in a small town called Millbrook, Jake Sullivan watched the alien ships descending. The 32-year-old construction worker had just gotten home from his shift when the sky lit up with laser fire. His daughter, Emma, only 7 years old, ran to him crying. "Daddy, what's happening?" Jake held her tight, feeling something crack inside his chest, not his ribs. Something deeper. Something that had been holding back years of suppressed emotion. His wife had died 2 years ago. He'd been strong for Emma, never cried. Never showed weakness. But now, watching those ships approach, knowing what might happen to his little girl, a single tear rolled down his cheek. Throughout Millbrook, similar scenes played out. Mary Thompson, the elderly librarian, wept as she clutched photos of her grandchildren. Officer Danny Park shed tears while helping evacuate the elementary school, thinking of his own kids. Even Tom Tank Morrison, the toughest biker in 3 counties, felt moisture in his eyes as he revved up his Harley to help with the evacuation. Back on the Decimator, alarm started blaring. "Captain, something's wrong with our shields," Grix shouted over the noise. "What do you mean wrong?" "Our shields are impenetrable. They're fluctuating, sir. The emotional energy readings are off the charts. The humans are just afraid. They're crying." Zornak's 6 eyes widened in confusion. "Crying? You mean those water leakages from their optical organs? How is that affecting our shields?" Before anyone could answer, the first attack ship exploded, not from any weapon. It simply came apart, as if reality itself had rejected its existence by the 7 suns. Zornak gasped. Pull back immediately." But it was too late. Across Earth, billions of humans faced their potential doom with something the Dominion had never encountered: genuine, heartfelt tears. Not just tears of fear, but tears of love, loss, hope, and defiance. Parents wept for their children. Children cried for their pets. Lovers shed tears at the thought of separation. Even strangers wept for each other, united in their shared humanity. The Dominion's technology, designed to feed on fear and aggression, had no defense against pure emotional vulnerability. Ship after ship began to malfunction, their crews screaming in confusion as their vessels literally dissolved around them. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from across the fleet." Vex's voice cracked with panic. "The crying, it's spreading. Even our own troops are beginning to leak from their sensory organs." Zornak turned to see his bridge crew. Sure enough, Grix had moisture seeping from her scales. Vex's antennae drooped as clear fluid dripped from his compound eyes. Even the battle-hardened security chief Krax was making snuffling noises through his breathing tubes. "What have these humans done to us?" Zornak whispered. Down on Earth, the miracle was becoming apparent. The alien ships were retreating, some crashing, others simply vanishing. In Millbrook, Jake Sullivan still held Emma, his tears now mixed with bewildered laughter. "Daddy, are the bad aliens going away?" "Yeah, sweetheart. I think they are." In New York City, crowds gathered in Times Square, many still crying but now also cheering. In London, people wept openly in the streets, embracing strangers. In Tokyo, salarymen who hadn't shown emotion in decades found themselves sobbing with relief. But the event that would become known as the Tears That Saved Earth was far from over. On the Decimator's bridge, Zornak faced a crisis unlike any in Dominion history. "Captain," Science Officer Theta spoke up, his voice unusually emotional for a being who prided himself on logic. "I've been analyzing the data. The humans' tears contain a unique quantum signature. It appears their emotional state can actually alter local reality on a subatomic level." "That's impossible," Zornak sputtered, though even he felt an unfamiliar wetness in his primary eyes. "The evidence is undeniable, sir. When humans cry, especially in large numbers, they create what can only be described as an empathy field. It breaks down the barriers between consciousness, forcing others to experience genuine emotion." Zornak slumped in his command chair, feeling the weight of 3,000 conquered worlds on his tentacles. How many species had they destroyed? How many cultures erased? And now these humans, with their simple tears, had revealed the hollow nature of the Dominion's power. "Sir," Grix approached hesitantly. "What are your orders?" Zornak looked at his crew, seeing them truly for the first time, not as subordinates or tools of conquest, but as individuals capable of feeling, capable of crying. "Send a message to Dominion Command," he said slowly. Tell them we've encountered a weapon we cannot defeat." "What weapon, sir?" Zornak turned his gaze back to Earth, where billions of humans were discovering that their vulnerability had become their greatest strength. "Compassion, Lieutenant. Pure, undiluted compassion." As the Decimator began its retreat, Zornak felt something he'd suppressed for centuries. A single drop of bioluminescent fluid leaked from his primary eye, his first tear in over 300 years. Little did he know, this was only the beginning. The tears that had repelled the Dominion were about to transform the galaxy in ways no one could imagine. For when beings who had never cried finally learned how, the universe itself would never be the same. Back on Earth, as the alien fleet disappeared into the depths of space, Jake Sullivan kissed his daughter's forehead. His tears had dried, but the feeling remained. Humanity had faced annihilation and responded not with weapons or technology, but with the most human reaction of all. They had cried. And in crying they had won. But their victory was about to set in motion events that would challenge the very foundations of galactic civilization. The Dominion's retreat was not an ending, but a beginning. For when word spread that a primitive species had defeated the galaxy's greatest military power with nothing but tears, every oppressed world would want to know how. And some would want to know why the Dominion had fled so quickly. What was it about human tears that had terrified them so much? The answer to that question would soon shake the cosmos to its core. As night fell over Millbrook, Jake tucked Emma into bed. She looked up at him with those innocent eyes and asked, "Daddy, why did crying make the aliens go away?" Jake stroked her hair gently. "I don't know, sweetie. Maybe sometimes showing how much we care is the strongest thing we can do." Emma nodded sleepily. "Like when you cried for Mommy?" Jake's breath caught. He had never cried for his wife in front of Emma. He'd been too afraid of seeming weak, but today had changed that. "Yeah, baby. Like when I cried for Mommy." As Emma drifted off to sleep, Jake walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dominion fleet was racing home with news that would transform everything. Humanity had discovered its secret weapon, though they didn't yet understand its true power. In the depths of space, Captain Zornak made a decision that would have been unthinkable hours earlier. He opened a secure channel to his home world, bypassing military protocols. "This is Captain Zornak of the Decimator. Classification: ultra secret. The humans, they possess something we've lost, something we've suppressed for millennia in our quest for dominance. They can cry, and their tears remind us of what we used to be. The response from Dominion Command was swift and harsh. "Captain Zornak, you are relieved of command pending psychological evaluation. Retreat immediately." But Zornak didn't retreat. Instead, he did something that would mark the beginning of the end for the Dominion's empire. He cried harder. And across the fleet. His crew cried with him. 3 months after the failed invasion, the galaxy buzzed with rumors. The mighty Dominion, conquerors of 3,000 worlds, had fled from a backwater planet called Earth. But the truth was far stranger than anyone imagined. Deep in Dominion space, on the fortress world of Zerath Prime, Grand Admiral Vorthan reviewed the reports with growing alarm. Captain Zornak and his entire fleet had gone rogue, broadcasting messages about something called the Awakening. Worse yet, the contagion was spreading. Emotional incidents up 400% across all sectors, Intelligence Chief Morak reported, his voice deliberately flat. 17 worlds have reported spontaneous crying events among their garrisons. Quarantine those systems immediately, Vorthan ordered. Whatever weapon these humans used, we cannot allow it to spread. But it was already too late. On the agricultural world of Kepler 442 billion, Overseer Drex had ruled with an iron tentacle for 50 years. The enslaved Kalari people hadn't smiled in generations. Then the broadcast from Zornak's fleet reached them. The message was simple. The humans cried. And we remembered how to feel. Drex found the first Kalari worker weeping in the protein fields. "Why do you leak?" Drex demanded. The Kalari, a fragile being named Yilla, looked up with her 4 eyes streaming. "I remembered my mother's song, Overseer, before you came. She used to sing to us about the twin suns rising." Silence. Return to work, but Yilla kept crying, and her tears seemed to shine with an inner light. Other Kalari workers stopped watching. One by one, they began to remember songs, stories, love. By sunset, the entire plantation was weeping. By midnight, even Overseer Drex felt an unfamiliar ache in his chest cavity. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity grappled with their newfound cosmic reputation. The United Nations had established the Department of Emotional Defense, though nobody quite understood what they were defending against or with. Dr. Amelia Foster, a neuroscientist hastily appointed as director, sat across from President Marcus Webb in the Situation Room. "What exactly happened 3 months ago?" Webb asked. "Best we can tell, Mr. President, collective human emotion created some kind of quantum field that interfaced with alien technology. But it's more than that. The aliens didn't just malfunction, they felt. Each felt what? Everything we've suppressed to survive. Love, loss, hope, grief. All of it, all at once." General Patricia Hayes leaned forward. "Can we weaponize it?" Dr. Foster shook her head. "That's just it, General. It's not a weapon. It's the opposite. It's pure, undiluted humanity." Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent message. An alien ship had entered Earth's orbit, not Dominion. Something else. The ship was unlike anything they'd seen. Organic curves instead of harsh angles. It pulsed with soft bioluminescent patterns that somehow seemed sad. "This is Captain Zornak of the Reformed Fleet. I request permission to land. I bring a warning and an apology." The world held its breath as the alien vessel descended into Central Park. Crowds gathered, many carrying tissues, though whether for defense or sympathy, no one was quite sure. Zornak emerged. But he looked different from the invasion footage. His scales had lost their militant sheen. His 6 eyes, once cold and calculating, now held a depth of emotion that made him seem almost human. "Human. People of Earth," he began, his translator crackling with feedback. "I came to conquer you. Instead, you conquered something within me that I thought was dead. But our transformation has triggered something terrible." He paused, and to everyone's amazement, a tear rolled down his alien features. "The Dominion High Command has declared your world a Class X emotional hazard. They're coming with weapons designed to eliminate not just your bodies, but your capacity to feel. They call it the Neutralizer fleet." President Webb stepped forward. "Why warn us?" "Because," Zornak's voice broke, "your tears reminded me of my own child. lost in the Dominion's endless wars. For the first time in centuries I grieved, and in grieving, I remembered what it means to be alive. Dr. Foster approached with a tablet. Captain, we've been studying the phenomenon. Human tears, especially when shed in moments of genuine emotion, seem to create a resonance field that breaks down psychological barriers. But we don't understand why it affected your species so strongly. Zornak's tentacles writhed in what might have been a bitter laugh. You don't understand? Your species evolved with emotion as a strength. You cry when you're born. You cry when you love. You cry when you lose. For you, tears are natural, he gestured to himself. The Dominion spent millennia breeding emotion out of our species. We viewed it as weakness. But suppressed emotion doesn't disappear, it calcifies. Builds pressure. Your tears didn't infect us, humans. They shattered a dam we'd built around our souls. In space, the Neutralizer fleet approached. 300 ships, each equipped with technology designed to sever the connection between consciousness and emotion. Grand Admiral Vorthen commanded from the flagship Emotionless Victory. Sir, we're detecting massive energy readings from Earth's surface, his tactical officer reported. The emotion weapon? No, sir. It's beautiful. Vorthen spun around, his eye stalks rigid with fury. Beautiful? Explain yourself. But the officer was crying. Silver tears leaked from his compound eyes as he pointed to the screen. Below, on Earth, something miraculous was happening. Word of the incoming fleet had spread. Instead of panic, instead of preparing weapons, humanity did what it did best. They gathered. In every city, every town, every village, millions, then billions of people came together, and they began to share. In Tokyo, an old man spoke of losing his wife to the tsunami. In London, a child sang a lullaby her grandmother taught her. In Cairo, thousands joined hands and wept for the beauty of human connection. But it wasn't just humans. Zornak and his reformed Dominion soldiers stood among them, their alien features streaming with tears of their own. They shared stories of worlds conquered, families lost, emotions suppressed for the greater glory of an empire that had forgotten how to feel. The combined emotional resonance was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. It rippled outward. A wave of pure feeling that transcended species, language, and form. On the Emotionless Victory, chaos erupted, shields failing. No, wait, the shields are intact, but they're crying. The engineering chief sobbed. Impossible. Vorthen roared. Shields can't cry, but they could. The very energy barriers designed to protect the ship were resonating with the emotional field from Earth. Droplets of condensed energy fell like rain inside the vessel. Crew members collapsed, overwhelmed by centuries of suppressed emotion. The most hardened soldiers wept like children. Officers trained from birth to feel nothing suddenly remembered everything. Sir, the communications officer gasped between sobs. We're receiving transmissions from across the fleet, all ships reporting similar phenomena. The crews are. They're remembering, sir, remembering how to feel. Vorthen stood alone on his bridge, the last being not crying. His whole existence had been built on the absence of emotion. He was the perfect Dominion officer. And he was terrified. Fire the neutralizers, he commanded. Sever their emotional connections. End this madness. A single weapon fired, its beam aimed directly at Earth. But as it approached the planet, something unprecedented occurred. The beam, designed to eliminate emotion, encountered the most powerful emotional field in galactic history. And it reversed. The neutralizer beam didn't destroy emotion. Supercharged by billions of crying souls, it amplified it. The reflected wave hit the Dominion fleet with the force of every suppressed feeling, every denied tear, every forgotten love across 3,000 conquered worlds. Grand Admiral Vorthen, the epitome of emotionless efficiency, felt it all at once. The children killed in the conquest of Rigel 7, the families separated on Vega Prime, the cultures erased, the songs silenced, the last words of dying species, he screamed. Not in pain, but in recognition. In his quest to eliminate weakness, he had become the weakest being in the galaxy, a creature so afraid of feeling that he had ceased to truly live. His tears, when they finally came, were not silver like his subordinates. They were rainbow-hued, each color a different suppressed emotion finally set free, and with those tears came a terrible, beautiful understanding. "Stand down," he whispered. Then louder, "All ships, stand down. The humans have won." But it wasn't victory in any traditional sense. As the Neutralizer fleet drifted in space, their crews weeping with newfound emotion, Earth's combined voice reached out. "Come," the message said. "Come and remember what it means to feel." One by one, the Dominion ships descended, not as conquerors, but as lost souls seeking redemption. The galaxy watched in awe as the most feared military force in history landed on Earth not with weapons, but with tears. In the days that followed, the transformation spread beyond Earth. The emotional resonance had reached every corner of Dominion space. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved species suddenly found their oppressors crying beside them. Overseers wept with workers. Commanders embraced those they had conquered. The Dominion's empire, built on the suppression of feeling, crumbled in a flood of tears. But from its ruins rose something unprecedented, a galactic community united not by force, but by the shared experience of emotion. Captain Zornak stood with Dr. Foster and President Webb, watching as former enemies worked together to establish refugee camps for the emotional awakening spreading across the galaxy. "Your species saved us all," Zornak said, "but not through strength or technology. Through vulnerability." Dr. Foster nodded. "We always thought our emotions made us weak. Turns out they were our greatest evolutionary advantage. What happens now?" President Webb asked. Zornak's 6 eyes gleamed with new purpose. Now we teach the galaxy what you taught us. That strength isn't about suppressing feeling. It's about embracing it. Every tear, every laugh, every moment of genuine emotion makes us more, not less." As the sun set over a changed world, Jake Sullivan sat with Emma, watching the alien ships that now served as symbols of hope rather than fear. "Daddy, are you going to cry again?" Jake smiled, no longer ashamed of the moisture in his eyes. "Probably, sweetheart. Happy tears this time." "Why?" "Because crying saved the world. And sometimes, showing how much we care is the bravest thing we can do." Across the galaxy, on worlds that had forgotten how to weep, beings were learning to cry again, and with each tear, the universe became a little more human, not in form, but in spirit. The tears that saved Earth had become the tears that freed the galaxy. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the cosmos wasn't technology or philosophy. It was the simple reminder that feeling deeply, loving strongly, and yes, crying freely, was not a weakness to be overcome. It was the very essence of what made life worth living. As the stars shimmered overhead, reflecting in countless alien tears, one truth echoed across the cosmos. The humans had shown them all that the end of emotional suppression was not an ending at all. It was a beginning. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a signal traveled to distant galaxies, carrying a message that would change the universe forever. The humans cried, and we remembered how to live.